Flight attendant Lisa Chen was serving coffee to passengers on Flight 847 when the first missile streaked past the cockpit window. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated," she announced calmly over the intercom, even as alarms screamed through the cabin. The second missile found its target, tearing through the aircraft's left engine in a ball of fire and metal. When Lisa rushed to the cockpit to check on the pilots, she found Captain Thompson slumped over the controls, unconscious from shrapnel wounds. Co-pilot Williams was desperately trying to maintain altitude with systems failing across the board. "Ma'am, we need you to help evacuate passengers," he shouted over the chaos. What Williams didn't know was that Lisa Chen hadn't always served coffee at 30,000 feet. The morning had started routinely for Lisa Chen as she completed her pre-flight checklist aboard the Boeing 767, preparing for departure from Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Flight 847 was a civilian charter carrying military contractors and diplomatic personnel from Europe to a classified location in the Middle East, one of those routine flights that existed in the gray area between military and commercial aviation. Lisa had been working as a senior flight attendant for Meridian International Airways for 18 months, a job that provided steady income and the opportunity to travel without the psychological pressure that had driven her from her previous career. She moved through the cabin with practiced efficiency, ensuring passenger safety while maintaining the professional demeanor that had made her one of the airline's most trusted crew members. The passenger manifest for Flight 847 read like a who's who of defense contractors, intelligence analysts, and diplomatic personnel, the kind of people who flew frequently between military installations without discussing their destinations or purposes. Lisa had learned not to ask questions about her passengers' business, focusing instead on ensuring their comfort and safety during flights that often crossed multiple time zones and international boundaries. "Coffee, sir?" Lisa asked Colonel Henderson, a frequent passenger who always requested an aisle seat in row 12. "Thank you, Miss Chen. How's the weather looking for our route today?" "Clear skies and tailwinds, sir. We should arrive ahead of schedule." Lisa had delivered this same reassurance countless times over the past year and a half, becoming comfortable with the routine that defined commercial aviation. Serve meals, check seatbelts, smile professionally, ensure passenger safety. It was a far cry from the responsibilities that had once defined her life, but it allowed her to sleep at night without the nightmares that had plagued her during her military service. The flight had been airborne for 2 hours when Lisa noticed increased radio chatter from the cockpit. Captain Thompson and co-pilot Williams were speaking in urgent tones with air traffic control, though their words were too muffled for passengers to understand. Lisa made her way toward the front of the cabin, noting the subtle tension in the crew's movements that suggested something had changed about their flight plan. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Thompson. We've been advised of some weather complications along our planned route and will be making a slight course correction. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened as we may experience some turbulence." Lisa knew that weather complications was often code for security concerns that couldn't be discussed openly with civilian passengers. The Middle East was a complex operational environment where flight paths changed frequently based on intelligence assessments and threat levels that shifted daily. 20 minutes later, Lisa was collecting coffee cups from the VIP section when she saw something through the aircraft's small cabin windows that made her blood freeze. 2 contrails streaking toward their aircraft from the ground below. Surface-to-air missiles. Lisa had seen those distinctive vapor trails during her 8 years as a combat pilot in some of the world's most dangerous airspace. She recognized the trajectory, the speed, and the deadly intent of the weapons designed to destroy aircraft at altitude. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated," Lisa announced over the intercom, her voice maintaining professional calm even as her mind shifted into combat mode. The first missile streaked past the cockpit window, missing by what looked like less than 50 feet. The cabin erupted in confused murmurs as passengers tried to understand what they'd just witnessed. Some had seen the missile, others had simply felt the aircraft's sudden evasive maneuver as Captain Thompson attempted to avoid the incoming threat. The second missile didn't miss. The explosion tore through the aircraft's left engine with devastating effect, sending shrapnel through the wing and fuselage while knocking out multiple electrical systems. The Boeing 767 shuddered violently as alarms screamed throughout the cabin and emergency oxygen masks dropped from overhead compartments. Lisa felt the familiar sensation of an aircraft in distress, the way the airframe responded to damage, the sound of systems failing, the subtle changes in flight characteristics that indicated catastrophic mechanical problems. These were sensations she hadn't experienced in 18 months, but muscle memory from her military training kicked in immediately. "Everyone remain calm and put on your oxygen masks," Lisa instructed passengers while moving quickly toward the cockpit. "Follow the safety instructions you received during our pre-flight briefing." Through the cockpit door, Lisa could see Captain Thompson slumped forward over the controls, blood streaming from a head wound caused by shrapnel from the missile strike. Co-pilot Williams was fighting to maintain control of an aircraft that was rapidly losing altitude and experiencing multiple system failures. "Ma'am, we need you to help evacuate passengers," Williams shouted over the chaos of alarms and failing systems. "I can't maintain altitude much longer." Lisa assessed the tactical situation with the analytical precision that had once made her one of the Air Force's most capable combat pilots. The aircraft had suffered critical damage to its left engine and multiple control systems. They were losing altitude at a rate that would result in ground impact within minutes, unless immediate corrective action was taken. But Williams didn't know that Lisa Chen possessed the knowledge and experience necessary to analyze their situation with the expertise of someone who had flown damaged aircraft through hostile territory on multiple occasions. "Williams, what's the extent of system damage?" Lisa asked, moving closer to examine the instrument panels. "Left engine is gone, hydraulics are failing, and we've lost most of our electrical systems. I can barely control the aircraft." Lisa looked at the altimeter, airspeed indicator, and attitude instruments, quickly calculating their rate of descent and remaining flight time. The mathematics were grim. At their current trajectory, they had perhaps 4 minutes before impact. How many passengers on board? 187 plus crew. 190 lives depending on decisions made in the next few minutes by people who didn't have sufficient training or experience to handle a situation this critical. "Williams, I need you to listen to me very carefully," Lisa said, her voice taking on the authority that had once commanded squadrons of fighter pilots. "I can help you land this aircraft. Ma'am, with respect, I need you to help with passenger evacuation. This is a job for trained pilots." Lisa understood Williams' response. From his perspective, she was a flight attendant, someone trained in passenger service and basic emergency procedures, not someone qualified to assist with flying a critically damaged aircraft. What Williams didn't know was that Lisa Chen had once been Major Lisa Chen, United States Air Force, with over 3,200 hours of flight time in fighter aircraft and transport planes. She had landed damaged aircraft in combat zones, executed emergency procedures under enemy fire, and completed missions that required the kind of flying skills that couldn't be learned from textbooks. Her military career had ended 18 months ago, not because of lack of competence, but because of a classified mission that had gone catastrophically wrong. A mission where her decisions had saved American lives, but violated direct orders from superior officers who didn't understand the tactical situation she was facing. The court-martial proceedings had been closed to the public. The charges eventually dropped, but the investigation had destroyed her military career and left her psychologically exhausted from years of high-stakes operations in combat zones. Lisa had chosen civilian aviation as a way to stay connected to flying while processing the trauma that came with having made life-and-death decisions in situations where there were no good options available. Now, with 190 lives at stake, those same decision-making skills were needed again. "Williams, I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound impossible," Lisa said, moving to the co-pilot's position as Captain Thompson remained unconscious. "I'm a former Air Force pilot with extensive experience in emergency landings." Williams looked at her with a mixture of desperation and disbelief. "Ma'am, I have over 3,000 hours of military flight time, including combat operations and emergency procedures. Right now, I'm the most qualified person on this aircraft to help you save these passengers." The aircraft shuddered again as more systems failed, and Williams realized he was rapidly running out of options. The altimeter showed they were descending through 15,000 feet with no ability to arrest their rate of descent using conventional flight controls. "What do you need me to do?" Williams asked, making the decision to trust someone who claimed capabilities that seemed impossible given her current job. "First, give me a complete systems assessment. What's working and what isn't?" Lisa slipped into the co-pilot seat, her hands moving automatically to instruments and controls she hadn't touched in 18 months. The familiarity was immediate and reassuring. Thousands of hours of training had created muscle memory that didn't disappear simply because she'd changed careers. "Right engine is functioning but running rough. We've lost most hydraulics, which means limited control authority. Electrical systems are failing progressively. Landing gear status is unknown. Flaps and slats are stuck in their current position." Lisa absorbed the information while scanning the instrument panel, quickly developing a mental picture of their aircraft's current capabilities and limitations. It was a grim assessment, but not hopeless if handled correctly. "What's our current position relative to airports?" "We're about 40 miles from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, but I don't think we can make it that far." Lisa checked the navigation display, calculating distance, altitude, and rate of descent. Williams was right. They didn't have sufficient altitude to reach Al Udeid using conventional approach procedures. But Lisa knew approaches that weren't conventional. "Williams, I need you to contact Al Udeid Approach Control and declare an emergency. Tell them we have a critically damaged civilian aircraft with limited flight controls, requesting immediate priority landing." "Already tried. They're directing us to emergency procedures we can't execute with our current system failures." Lisa took control of the radio communications. "Al Udeid Approach, this is Meridian 847 declaring emergency. We are a Boeing 767 with catastrophic system damage requiring immediate assistance for emergency landing." "Meridian 847, Al Udeid Approach. Understand you are declaring emergency. What is the nature of your emergency?" "Approach, we have suffered missile strike resulting in left engine destruction, multiple hydraulic failures, and progressive electrical system loss. We have 190 souls on board and are currently descending through 12,000 feet with limited control authority." The radio was silent for several seconds as air traffic controllers processed the information that a civilian aircraft had been attacked by surface-to-air missiles. "Meridian 847, Roger. We are clearing all traffic and preparing for emergency landing. What are your requirements?" Lisa looked at their current position, airspeed, and rate of descent, then made calculations that drew on every aspect of her military training. "Approach, we will require a straight-in approach to your longest runway. We cannot execute standard landing procedures due to system damage. We will be making a high-speed, no-flap landing with unknown landing gear status." "Meridian 847, Roger. Runway 34. Right is available, length 12,000 feet. Emergency equipment is rolling." Lisa turned to Williams, who was staring at her with a mixture of amazement and relief. "Williams, I need you to help me configure this aircraft for emergency landing. We're going to do something that's not in the civilian flight manual." "What do you need me to do?" "Help me transfer fuel to balance the aircraft. With the left engine gone, we have an asymmetric thrust condition that's going to make control difficult during final approach." Lisa began implementing emergency procedures that combined her knowledge of Boeing 767 systems with combat flying techniques designed to land damaged aircraft under adverse conditions. The next 15 minutes required every skill Lisa had developed during her military career. She executed a descending spiral approach that allowed them to lose altitude while maintaining control of an aircraft that wanted to enter an unrecoverable spin. She managed power settings manually after the auto-throttle system failed. She coordinated with Williams to extend landing gear using emergency procedures when the normal system proved inoperative. Most importantly, she maintained the calm, analytical mindset that allowed her to make critical decisions under pressure that would determine whether 190 people lived or died. During the approach, Lisa had to compensate for wind shear that threatened to destabilize their already precarious flight path. She adjusted power settings based on engine performance data that she calculated in her head, while simultaneously managing control inputs that kept the aircraft aligned with the runway. Meridian 847, Al Udeid approach. You are cleared for emergency landing runway 34 right. Emergency equipment is standing by. Approach. Meridian 847 is on final approach. Be advised we will be landing at higher than normal speed with unknown braking capability. Lisa lined up the crippled Boeing 767 with the runway centerline, compensating for the asymmetric thrust condition that wanted to pull the aircraft off course. The approach required constant control inputs to maintain proper flight path while managing an aircraft that no longer responded predictably to pilot commands. Williams, call out airspeeds. I need to know our exact speed throughout this approach. 190 knots, 180, 170. Lisa could see the runway approaching rapidly. Emergency vehicles positioned along both sides with foam trucks and ambulances ready to respond if the landing went wrong. 160, 150. The aircraft touched down hard but within acceptable parameters, immediately beginning to decelerate as Lisa applied maximum braking while maintaining directional control. The damaged landing gear held, and the aircraft rolled down the runway, trailing smoke from overheated brakes, but remaining under control. Meridian 847, Al Udeid Tower. Welcome to Qatar. Outstanding job. Lisa brought the aircraft to a complete stop 3/4 of the way down the runway, then initiated immediate evacuation procedures as emergency personnel surrounded the Boeing 767. All 190 souls on board survived the emergency landing. Within hours, news of the incident spread throughout military and civilian aviation communities. A civilian flight attendant had helped land a critically damaged aircraft after it was struck by surface-to-air missiles, saving nearly 200 lives through flying skills that seemed impossible for someone in her position. The investigation that followed revealed Lisa Chen's true background. Major Lisa Chen, former United States Air Force pilot, whose military record included classified operations that couldn't be discussed publicly, but had prepared her for exactly the kind of emergency that had occurred on Flight 847. The media attention was immediate and intense. Aviation experts struggled to explain how someone working as cabin crew had possessed the advanced flying skills necessary to execute such a complex emergency landing. Lisa found herself at the center of a story that she couldn't fully tell without revealing classified information about her military service. 2 weeks later, Lisa received a call from General Patricia Morrison, commanding officer of Air Force Special Operations Command. Major Chen, I believe we need to have a conversation about your current employment status. General, I'm no longer Major Chen. I'm a civilian now. Major, 18 months ago you left the Air Force under circumstances that didn't reflect your actual capabilities or value to our mission. Recent events suggest that separation may have been premature. Lisa was quiet, processing the implications of the general's statement. Ma'am, my military career ended because I made decisions that violated direct orders. Major, your military career was interrupted because you made decisions that saved American lives when conventional procedures would have resulted in casualties. There's a difference. General Morrison paused, allowing the distinction to register. Major Chen, we have a situation that requires someone with your specific combination of skills. Intelligence indicates that the surface-to-air missiles that damaged your aircraft were part of a coordinated attack on American personnel. The people responsible are planning additional operations. Ma'am, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. Major, I'm asking if you're ready to return to active duty for a mission that requires your flying skills and your operational experience. A mission that would allow you to ensure the people who tried to kill you and your passengers face appropriate consequences. Lisa looked out the window of her hotel room at Al Udeid Air Base, where the damaged Boeing 767 sat surrounded by investigators trying to understand how a civilian flight attendant had managed to land an aircraft that should have been unflyable. General, what kind of mission are we discussing? The kind that officially doesn't exist, conducted by pilots who officially aren't there, against targets who officially can't be engaged through conventional means. Lisa understood immediately what General Morrison was describing. The kind of classified operation that had ended her military career when she'd chosen to save lives rather than follow orders that would have resulted in American casualties. "Ma'am, if I returned to active duty, would I be expected to follow the same kinds of orders that led to my previous difficulties?" "Major, you would be expected to use your best judgment to complete missions that protect American personnel. The kind of judgment you demonstrated when you landed Flight 847. The conversation continued for another hour as General Morrison outlined the specific intelligence they had gathered about the terrorist organization responsible for the missile attack. The group had been planning coordinated attacks on civilian aircraft carrying American personnel, with Flight 847 serving as a test of their capabilities. "Major, we've identified the leadership structure of this organization and their operational bases, but they're located in areas where conventional military action would create diplomatic complications. You need someone who can operate outside normal military constraints. We need someone who understands that sometimes protecting American lives requires actions that can't be officially acknowledged." 3 days later, Major Lisa Chen reported to Nellis Air Force Base for reassignment to a classified unit that specialized in operations requiring pilots with exceptional skills and the willingness to operate beyond conventional military constraints. The briefing she received outlined a terrorist organization that had acquired advanced surface-to-air missile systems and was planning systematic attacks on civilian aircraft carrying American military contractors and diplomatic personnel. "Major, your mission is to eliminate the leadership and operational capability of this organization before they can execute additional attacks." Lisa studied the intelligence files, noting operational bases in remote locations that couldn't be reached through conventional military action without creating international incidents. "Sir, what aircraft will I be flying?" "Something that doesn't appear in official inventories, with capabilities that allow for precision strikes in denied areas." 6 months after the Flight 847 incident, Lisa was flying missions that eliminated the terrorist cell responsible for the surface-to-air missile attack. The operations were conducted using aircraft that combined stealth technology with precision strike capabilities, allowing for surgical elimination of targets without collateral damage. Each mission was planned with the same attention to detail that had characterized her emergency landing of the damaged Boeing 767. She calculated approach routes that avoided detection, selected weapons that ensured precise target elimination, and executed strikes that left no evidence of American military involvement. The terrorist organization, responsible for attacking Flight 847, discovered that some actions had consequences that arrived from the sky, delivered by pilots whose existence was classified beyond official acknowledgement. Lisa had saved 190 lives as a flight attendant by landing a damaged aircraft. As Major Chen, she prevented those same terrorists from threatening additional civilian flights by eliminating their capability to acquire and deploy surface-to-air missile systems. The operations were successful, methodical, and completely denied by all official sources. But the people who had tried to murder innocent civilians learned that mercy was not weakness, and that some pilots possessed capabilities that transcended conventional military constraints. The Boeing 767 from Flight 847 was eventually repaired and returned to commercial service, though passengers who flew on it never knew they were traveling in an aircraft that had survived a missile attack through the skill of a flight attendant who had once been one of the Air Force's most capable combat pilots. Major Chen continued flying missions that officially didn't happen, protecting American interests in ways that could never be publicly acknowledged, but were absolutely necessary to prevent larger conflicts. Sometimes the most important flights were conducted by pilots whose names never appeared on any manifest, whose achievements were measured not in recognition but in threats eliminated and lives protected. The sky was vast enough to accommodate both commercial airliners carrying passengers to their destinations and military aircraft ensuring those passengers arrived safely. Some flight attendants served coffee and ensured passenger comfort. Others served justice, one precision strike at a time, delivered from altitudes where conventional rules no longer applied and only results mattered. Major Lisa Chen had discovered that her true calling wasn't serving passengers. It was protecting them through capabilities that remained hidden until the moment when ordinary procedures proved insufficient and extraordinary measures became necessary. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.